Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Richard and this is Lap of the World. We are now at Circuit of the Americas for an installment of Just the Laps. This is a video mainly intended to show some reference laps for folks that are wanting to memorize the track layout before they may visit themselves, but we're also going to have a little bit of narrative to go with it and talk about a particular teachable moment that I think you probably saw in the intro. We're going to start off right out of the gate with a little bit of a pro tip for those morning sessions at COTA, especially in early in the year. You're going to want to have some sunglasses or a tinted visor, because as you can tell from the glare on the windshield, and this isn't even the first session of the day, but the sun will be directly in your eyes as you proceed up towards turn 1 in the early hours. So you want to kind of factor that in, make sure your windshield's clean. And if you have some tinted eyewear, that's probably ideal. Exiting the pits here, again, the exit of the blend line is pretty much at the entrance to turn 1, and you will want to be a little careful here because that can you can get it a little bit pinched, and on cold tires that can I almost spun there in our warm-up session, being completely honest, so you kind of want to take a little bit of care there. There is a bump on the apex. But we are driving today with Chin Track Days in their blue group, which is the Advanced Solo group, and that'll be kind of a point I'll touch on later because it is kind of a mix of experience in this group. But on this day at least, it was a mix of also some very, very fast cars. You aren't going to see me do a lot of passing. You will see me do a lot of pointing by. Just coming out here on our first lap, we're still just kind of coming up to speed at this point. Yeah, this was the second session of this day. The first session was kind of a warm-up, but the tire is not completely up to temperature yet still, so we're kind of taking it easy here as we approach this little sports racer. Cars like this are always an interesting bag because they probably will absolutely murder you through the twisty sections, but the lower categories of them don't really have a lot of shove in a straight line, as you can tell. I'm sure he's not up to full throttle yet either. But as was the case on this day, I've already been looking in my mirrors out with an early point by for this Cayman GT4 Club Sport, I believe, in this case. Those cars are ridiculously quick as we're coming in here to kind of one of the new repaved sections. The track had just been repaved before our visit here, and the surface was by and large immaculate, as we point by a Camaro ZL1 there with some cool livery on it. That car was lapping ridiculously quickly, and you can tell it just, there's nothing I can do with it. He's got better tires, huge steamrollers on that thing, and all the torque in the world. The good thing was it was a bright color, so I could see him coming real nice and early, and get my arm out the window, and then back in the window quickly enough as we come through here this Istanbul Turkey-inspired carousel section, part of your Tilka grab bag of turns that we have on Circuit of the Americas. As I said in our feature video, yes, it's a Tilka track, but if you write it off on that basis alone, then you're kind of just neck-bearding and doing yourself a little bit of a disservice. And here we get back to our first flying lap as we send around a very nice gentleman that we spoke to in that 992 GT3. I think that was a PDK car, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, one of several out there on the day. Coming back into turn 1, you can see again we got a little. The sun glare isn't quite as bad this time around, but I think the theme. If I had to put a theme on this track or on this video with respect to reference laps, you're going to want to use more curb and more of the available track limits than I did pretty much the whole time. You'll see I will use some curb here and there, but I really probably could have used more, and that was something that I was kind of working towards, but I didn't do as much video review midday or between the first and second day as I would have liked to have done. Because I think I probably could have gotten myself I hesitate to say plural seconds, but very possibly plural seconds, just by abusing the track limits a little more in certain places and giving myself some better angles. But yeah, that's what we're kind of on about here at Circuit of the Americas. This was a really fun trip. coming in here to the start of the long straight. This track was very rough on brakes. There's a lot of really long straights into hairpins. That was actually kind of my limiting factor on the weekend. I came in with probably, I don't know, certainly well more than half a pad thickness of Hawk HP Plus, and I was, by the time I got home, I had definitely gotten my money's worth. We weren't down to the backing plate, but we were close. Peaking here, peak speeds on, for a sub 300 horsepower, sub 3,000 pound car on that longest straight was about 130. Now that's although that's probably one of the longer straights that I've driven on, it actually isn't, I'm not quite seeing the terminal velocities there that I do at Road Atlanta, Road America, and certainly nowhere near Daytona, just because you don't have any kind of run onto the straight. I'm having to start from a dig in a Honda. So you can only pedal so fast there. Now we're coming back around here. This is the end of our first flying lap, and we'll start to kind of pick up the pace a little bit from here. Again, towards the end of this lap, again, kind of, I'm using a little bit more of the runoff on this section than I have been in previous laps. And I will say for this session that we're watching, my predicted best was some 2 seconds quicker than my actual best lap. So I was stringing together some good sectors, but as with is often the case at a packed track event, in most cases I was having to give up lap time to be a good neighbor and shepherd around some faster traffic. So we're coming up here on, let's see here, back into the S's as we get our entry a little more tidy here out of that first section. Granted, last lap I was pointing a GTR around there. And we're coming, again, pretty briskly through here as we have our friend Viper gaining on us. I probably could have kept that a little more tidy on the exit there, and then I'm giving up curb that I could be using on entry here, and giving up more curb I could be using on entry here. So again, like pushing the limits of the tires, I was trying that section in third gear as I give this guy a point by here, and then, yeah, I don't know. We'll discuss this more later. I think I'm not going to point any fingers. I think there's probably some teachable moment all around here, and we'll get into some analysis here once we've gotten through our fast lap of this session, as I give the gentleman in the Viper a second point by, still with the index finger, mind you, and then we proceed on about our day. You can hear on the longest straight, you kind of had a lot of time. It was, I think somebody pointed out that, like, yeah, this track is kind of two very technical fun sections broken up by this really long straight. And having reviewed kind of some of my own footage, I can agree with that to a degree. However, in a car with no power steering, that's I didn't mind the brake too much, and you get to go a little bit fast. It's kind of fun. So I think I'll give COTA a pass on that particular layout quirk. So we get another gentleman and another fast Porsche around us there. That's kind of the theme for the day. As I think I've already mentioned that. Very, very fast group. Lots of really, really fast cars. Also some very fast drivers. But we had fun nonetheless. So we're going to come around here, and this lap, I believe, will start what was, I think, our second quickest lap on the weekend. Yes, second quickest lap on the weekend. Possibly a more representative lap of what one should be doing here from a line and like a school line standpoint if you're trying to be good and polite with your track limits. So I'm going to shut up and let you watch this one, and we'll pick it up afterwards again for a little bit of analysis. So that's a very conservative 2 minutes 40 seconds and some change. Again, I think my predictive best for the session was a 2:38. I think if I had actually been a little quicker to the throttle in certain areas and used more of the available track, I think the car definitely has, you know, mid-30s, upper mid-30s in it. I still don't think I quite got the S's. I never felt like I got behind the slalom enough in autocross terms in the S's. And there were definitely a couple of places where, again, I think I was critically missing some angles because not using enough curve. But that was kind of the end of our fun for this session. The gentleman in the S2000 here, it wasn't anything too expensive. I think he had a wheel bearing or hub or something break. Make a bid for freedom, but he got towed in and was able to find a ride home, hopefully fixed. Anyway, so let's rewind then and have a closer look at our Viper incident here. Again, I'm not pointing any fingers. I think there are some teachable opportunities all around, so we'll break it down. Now, getting with our video here, in HPDE, the pass that you're going to do or take kind of starts with the first visual contact of the cars. And right here you can see the Viper has entered frame in the background. I don't know if I would have seen him in the car yet at this point, just because of the profile of the track and, you know, I'm looking in small mirrors versus a wide-angle GoPro rear view. But I probably would have noticed that the Viper was there about right here. You'll see me steal a glance in the mirror, and I would have seen some headlights coming down the hill. Given the speed of this group overall, I would have been assuming that somebody was catching me at that point, the rate of which was to be determined. We had everything from like E36s and Miatas up to a freaking Senna GTR with a ridiculous closing speed. Now, exiting the S's here, which I've made a little bit of a hash of, I would have noticed that he was on me, and in a perfect world, I will admit that I probably should have pointed him by about right here. If I'd given him a point over the top of the car, indicating an overtake to the right, and then given up the exit to 7, I could have probably gotten him by on the inside of 9 pretty cleanly, I think. That said, this is a pretty busy section of track, so I would defend my my decision in the moment all day long as prudent and not at all rude. I don't feel that I'm unjustly holding him up here. We both paid the same entry fee. But I did want to get him by as early as possible so we can both continue on about our fun. So again here, early point. And then anticipating he's going to go by me and use all the curb, I've just followed the profile of the track, which he was apparently uncomfortable with for whatever reason. So let's rewind that a little bit here and see what actually went on as we get here. So right there, you look at the rear view in the lower right, that is about the closest that our cars got. You know, when I heard his tires, I definitely made a move to give way more space and went clear off the track to the outside, because in case he was spinning, I didn't want to get collected in it. So the two things that can go on here. So one, I needed to remember that this is an intermediate solo group. Now, there are some of you that are looking at that gap and probably thinking, wow, that's kind of close. You didn't give him much room. However, there's another contingent of you out there, you racing drivers most likely, that are considering that you probably could have gotten your RV towing your race car through there, and never mind just your race car. But being an intermediate solo group, there is going to be a breadth of experience, kind of a divide in experience, and by the same token, a kind of a broad, a broad variety of people's comforts with proximity. Now, I felt that I gave him plenty of room. He clearly didn't think that I was giving him enough room, or thought that I was turning in on him or something like that. Hence the code brown and the brake lock there. And that's kind of the second half of this. If you are uncomfortable with that level of proximity and somebody gives you a point by and you are not comfortable taking it in the middle of the turn, you are under no obligation to make the pass at that point in time in the middle of the turn. Had he just waited behind me, I would have given him another point once we had cleared the crest, or he could have just waited to take that point by, because I'm going to stay track right, as I've given him a point, and therefore I'm expecting him alongside at any point in time, unless I see some obvious wave off. But again, you know, I don't know him, he doesn't know me, so you're kind of forced, everybody is forced to assume that everybody else is an idiot in this case, and take whatever action they deem appropriate. In this case, it was for him to jump on the brakes in the middle of a turn, and for me, it was to, try and get well wide as far as I could in case he spun. So again, the takeaways I want to have here is, as we'll just kind of let this play out, as we've now completed our ritual of getting him by, is that give the point buys where you're comfortable giving the point buys, and do so decisively, and then drive predictably. At the same time, if you are given a point buy that you're not comfortable taking, then don't take it. Either do take it or don't take it. And then everybody's on the same page, and there's no issue at that point. This isn't the first time that I've used that area as an overtaking zone, so I'll show you what that looks like when done correctly here. So to start with here, we've got a very, very fast Nissan GT-R that we pointed by in roughly the same place, and they get the pass done before we even turn into turn 10. The next thing we're going to see is a McLaren 720S doing basically the same thing. They track out, and they get on the gas, and then they're through and out of the way before we even turn in. Next, we're going to get 2 cars through for the space of 1. Now, this was after that incident, and I was extra cautious and gave these guys a ton of room, but nonetheless, you can fit 2 cars through in the same turn. The GT3 passing essentially in the same place as the Viper did. And just to show what this looks like from outside the car, so there is a clean pass. And then you can also see the line that I would normally take, which is kind of really almost on the paint there, or even closer than that one. So with all of that said, again, I want to remind you that I'm not trying to create any drama here. That is not the point of this video. This is intended to be kind of a reference lap video, as well as speaking to kind of a teachable moment all around from the perspective of both drivers as near as I can interpret it. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you took something constructive away from it, be that either a little bit of memorization of COTA's layout, or potentially kind of some philosophy to take forward if you're starting into or advancing through an HPDE ladder out there yourself. But that is where we're going to leave it for today. Again, thank you for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video and did take something away from it. Please comment down below if you think I am wrong for whatever reason, or if you think I'm right for that matter. But otherwise, thanks again for watching. I'm Richard, this is Lap the World, and we will see you all again in the next video, if not at the track.